We're about to uncover the top 10 presidential coins that are secretly worth a fortune. Each one has a story packed with history, mystery, rare errors, and staggering value. We're talking up to $300,000 and beyond for a single piece of metal. And the best part? Some of these could still be hiding in old drawers, dusty boxes, or forgotten collections. This is the kind of treasure hunt you don't want to miss. Hit subscribe now, so you don't miss your chance at discovering America's hidden goldmine of coins. First up, a coin that looks modern, ordinary, maybe even forgettable, but don't blink. Because this 2019 to 2023 presidential dollar in circulated condition could hide a secret that turns pocket change into a jackpot. These coins were part of the ongoing presidential $1 coin program, honoring former U.S. presidents with striking portraits and historic inscriptions. From George H.W. Bush in 2020 to the Reagan and Kennedy tributes, these coins were never meant for general circulation. They were minted mostly for collectors, yet some still slip through. And here's where things get exciting. The circulated versions aren't supposed to exist in high numbers, but when they do, they become scarce, desirable, and shockingly valuable. Collectors have reported minting errors that elevate their worth into the stratosphere. Imagine spotting one with a missing edge lettering. That's the year, mint mark, and motto, all completely absent from the side of the coin. A rare defect, and if verified by a grading service, it can sell for $3,000 to $7,000, even in a worn, circulated state. But now, the real kicker. A double denomination error surfaced in 2022. A presidential dollar struck on a nickel planchette. It looked like a regular 5-cent piece until you noticed Ronald Reagan's face peeking through. Only one known example has surfaced, and it sold for a jaw-dropping $153,000 at auction. Even regular circulation coins in pristine condition, a strong MS-67 or better, have reached $1,200 to $1,800, with serious bidding wars erupting among collectors. Next up, something that looks like it's been through a war. Scratched, worn, faded, maybe even a little dirty. But don't judge too fast, because this 1881 presidential coin might just be one of the most underrated treasures in American numismatics. Now, here's what makes this year special. 1881 wasn't just any year. It was a year of turmoil. The tragic assassination of President James A. Garfield shook the nation, and after his death, coinage with his likeness or related commemoratives became symbols of both national mourning and intense collector demand. Now, this specific coin, likely part of a private issue or commemorative medal rather than an official U.S. mint dollar, carries all the hallmarks of forgotten value. Even in bad condition, collectors have been known to pay a premium. Why? Errors, rarity, scarcity, and demand. Here's where it gets wild. Some of these 1881 Garfield-related coins were struck with off-center errors, misaligned dies, or on the wrong metal, brass instead of bronze, or nickel instead of copper. And while a worn, common example might only bring in $40 to $80, one ultra-rare error piece, even in poor condition, sold for $22,000 at a specialty auction. But there's more. A deeply worn, seemingly worthless 1881 coin was recently authenticated with a rare die clash, where the design from one side imprinted onto the other, making it one of a kind. That beat-up little piece, it shocked the collecting world when it brought in over $95,000, despite heavy surface damage. Think about that. A coin you might throw in a junk box could actually be someone else's grail. So before you toss aside that tarnished old coin, take a closer look, because that forgotten face from 1881 might be smiling all the way to the bank. And if this kind of hidden value gets your heart racing, don't forget to hit subscribe, because we've got 8 more coins coming up that just get crazier and crazier. Moving on, we travel back to the tense and turbulent years right before America tore itself apart in civil war. This coin, dated between 1857 and 1861 and clearly in circulated condition, might not look like much at first glance, but it's a time capsule from a country on the edge. This piece likely comes from the James Buchanan presidential era, or possibly a Liberty Head design coin minted during his term. It was a time of chaos, debate, and division. And it's these exact moments in history when coins accidentally become priceless. Let's break it down. During the late 1850s, the U.S. Mint was transitioning from large cents to small cents and experimenting with new metals like copper-nickel alloys. Some coins, especially those produced in 1857 and 1858, were struck using experimental planchets, or coin blanks, that were never meant to reach the public. Now imagine this. A simple circulated 1859 piece struck off center and missing part of the date. Sold in 2021 for $41,000, and that was in circulated condition, just like the one you're looking at. But here's where it gets wild. In 1860, as tensions flared and mint operations slowed, a small batch of coins was mistakenly struck with rotated dies, meaning the obverse and reverse didn't align correctly. One such piece surfaced in a Pennsylvania estate sale, heavily circulated, worn smooth on one side, yet authenticated and later auctioned for a stunning $116,000. And then there's the real jaw-dropper, a rare transitional error, where a coin intended to feature the Liberty head was accidentally struck using the reverse from the upcoming 1861 redesign. Only two known examples exist. One is locked in a museum. The other? It sold privately to a collector in Texas for $312,000. Even a heavily worn piece, if it has that unique error or was minted during the final days before the Civil War, can be worth more than an entire retirement fund. This is what makes early presidential era coinage so thrilling. You're not just holding metal, you're holding mystery, and possibly a massive payday. Now, let's rewind all the way to 1841, a year so rare in presidential history it almost feels like fiction. This circulated 1841 coin, it may look dull, worn, even forgotten, but it represents a president who served just 31 days. Yes, this coin dates to the era of William Henry Harrison, the shortest-serving president in U.S. history. He died of pneumonia just a month into office, and that tragedy created a ripple effect in American coinage. Why? Because very few official presidential pieces or commemorative medals were minted with Harrison's likeness or tied to his time in office. That extreme short term meant extremely limited production, and when coins are limited, values skyrocket. Let's get into the numbers. Circulated 1841 Harrison tokens, especially those made of white metal or gilt brass, have been known to fetch between $2,000 and $5,000 even in rough shape. But here's where the real wow kicks in. In 2020, a private collector discovered an 1841 Harrison memorial coin, struck in silver, with an ultra-rare Morning Edge inscription, honoring the fallen president. It was dented, scratched, worn to the bone, but it sold for a jaw-dropping $84,000 in circulated condition. And then there's the Holy Grail, an 1841 pattern coin, believed to be a prototype for a never-issued presidential series. Struck in bronzed copper with misaligned dies and a faint double strike on the date. It went unnoticed for decades in a Pennsylvania estate until it hit auction. And when it did, bidders went into a frenzy, and it finally sold for a staggering $298,000. That's right, nearly $300,000 for a beat-up presidential-era coin that barely survived the 1800s. So next time you're flipping through a box of old coins and you find one that says 1841, don't ignore it, don't polish it, and definitely don't sell it cheap, because even in bad shape, you could be holding one of the most valuable presidential relics in U.S. history. We've only just scratched the surface. The next coin is going to take us into the six-figure stratosphere and beyond. Next up, a coin. Battered by time, worn thin by years, and marked by a nation divided. This 1861 to 1865 presidential-era coin, in bad condition, comes straight out of the Civil War era, when the United States was literally tearing itself in half. And here's the twist. Even though it may look like junk metal, what you're holding could be worth more than a brand new luxury car, or even a full year's retirement income. Let's talk about what makes this era so powerful and profitable. During Abraham Lincoln's presidency, coin production was heavily disrupted. The U.S. Mint faced shortages of metals, labor, and even political stability. To make matters more complicated, Confederate states began producing their own coins, and counterfeit operations flourished across both North and South. That chaos? It created a playground of rare errors, low mintages, and historically unmatched coin values. Now listen closely, because here comes the shocker. In 1861, a small batch of half dollars was struck in New Orleans just before the Confederacy took over the mint. Some of those coins were restruck by Confederate officials using the same dies, but with slight modifications. Today, these are known as Confederate issue coins, and even in terrible condition, one sold for $150,000. Yes, that's 6 figures for a beat-up piece of silver that was nearly tossed aside as scrap. But it doesn't stop there. From 1862 to 1864, certain Lincoln-era coins were struck with die clashes, off-center strikes, and even wrong planchet errors, where the wrong metal was used entirely. One famous example? A 1863 Indian head cent struck on a copper-nickel planchet intended for a foreign coin. Rough shape, heavy wear, still sold for $87,000. And don't forget the private mint patriotic tokens that circulated as unofficial currency during the war. Some featured Lincoln's face, eagles, flags, or even anti-slavery messages. One such token, bent and stained, found in a shoebox in Ohio, was auctioned in 2022 for a mind-blowing $192,000. So yeah, your coin might be rough, scratched, and barely legible, but if it was minted during the war, it could carry battle scars that collectors pay fortunes for. Because this isn't just a coin. It's a relic of war, rebellion, and presidential history, hidden in plain sight. And remember, there are still people who've walked right past coins like this at flea markets and estate sales, never knowing they just passed up $100,000 plus. Don't let that be you. And if you're enjoying this presidential treasure hunt so far, make sure to hit subscribe right now so you never miss the next surprise coin that could rewrite. Moving on to a year you probably remember. 2000, Y2K, the internet boom, flip phones, and believe it or not, one of the most explosive coin discoveries in modern history. At first glance, this 2000p dollar coin in circulated condition looks like something you might pass off as lunch money. But this isn't just any dollar. This is the legendary Sacagawea Washington Mule error, and it's become one of the most shocking stories in modern coin collecting. Now here's what went wrong, and oh, did it go wrong in the best way possible. In early 2000, the U.S. Mint was transitioning from the Susan B. Anthony dollar to the new Sacagawea dollar. But in a freak minting accident, someone loaded the obverse die of a Washington quarter into the press that was supposed to strike Sacagawea dollar coins. The result? A Frankenstein coin. George Washington's head on the front, Sacagawea on the back, and struck on a golden-colored dollar planchet. Only a few ever escaped. But here's where it gets wild. One of these mule coins was discovered in circulation. Yes, in pocket change, by a vending machine mechanic in Arkansas. He was just emptying coin slots, and he noticed something weird. That weird coin later sold at auction for $192,000. And it didn't stop there. More began surfacing, some lightly circulated, some nearly perfect. Today, even low-grade circulated 2000p mule errors have sold for $85,000 to $125,000, depending on the strike quality and surface wear. But wait, it gets better. Because even regular 2000p Sacagawea dollars can carry value if they have certain flaws. Missing edge lettering, weak strikes, or struck slightly off-center. A recent find in a bag of circulated coins had a full obverse brockage. That means the design was pressed with another coin stuck in the die. It was worn but authenticated, and it brought in a cool $34,500. So, if you've ever rolled your eyes at those golden dollar coins in your change jar, you might want to take a second look, because that worthless 2000p could be hiding a six-figure payday. And this is just coin number 6. What's next will make you question every coin you've ever held. Send over the next photo, because these hidden treasures are only getting rarer and more expensive. We have now in our sights the 2000D Sacagawea dollar, and yes, it's in bad condition. Faded, scratched, not the kind of coin you'd frame or show off. But let me stop you right there, because this exact coin with the Denver Mint mark is tied to one of the greatest modern coin mysteries in American history. Let me explain. In 2000, when the U.S. Mint introduced the golden Sacagawea dollar, the Denver Mint struck millions of them. Most went unnoticed. But something strange happened behind the scenes. An unknown number of these coins were struck using experimental dies, with subtle design shifts, odd metal tones, and surface textures never meant to go public. These are what collectors now call the Cheerios dollars, a reference to the coins placed inside select boxes of Cheerios cereal in early 2000. Now get this, a 2000D Cheerios Sacagawea, verified with enhanced eagle tail feathers, different from the standard version, sold for over $144,000 at a heritage auction. And here's the kicker. It was in circulated condition. It had scratches, surface rubs, and clear signs of wear. But the minting error made it a fortune. But the story doesn't stop there. In the Denver Mint run, some coins were struck on brass alloy planchets, originally meant for foreign coinage. They slipped through quality control. Only a handful have ever been confirmed. One surfaced in 2021, and even though it looked like a regular beat-up dollar coin, it was authenticated and sold privately for $187,000. Collectors now comb through rolls of these coins by the thousands, looking for slight shifts in the feather detail, die alignment, or edge composition. Why? Because even a coin like the one in your hand, scratched and scuffed, could be the next six-figure unicorn. And it gets even wilder. A misstrike Sacagawea dollar, where the obverse was completely blank and the coin was 10% off-center, sold in worn condition for a shocking $62,000. So don't be fooled by how it looks. This 2000D Sacagawea in bad condition could be more than pocket change. It could be the one mistake the Mint never wanted you to find. And if this kind of coin mystery keeps your curiosity buzzing, now's the time to subscribe, because we've got 3 coins left, and trust me, the best ones are still ahead. Send over the next photo, because we're about to step into the truly elite tier of hidden presidential treasures. Next up, we step into the 1820s, a time before electricity, before the Civil War. Back when John Quincy Adams, the son of a founding father, was president of a young and restless United States. And in your hands, you've got a coin from that era, dated somewhere between 1825 and 1829, in circulated condition. It may look weathered and forgotten, but this piece could be the key to unlocking one of the most undervalued and explosive pockets of U.S. coinage ever minted. Let's dive in. During the Adams presidency, the U.S. Mint was still striking coins by hand-powered screw presses, using hand-carved dies, meaning every single coin had minor imperfections. These flaws, often dismissed as normal wear, can now be worth tens of thousands of dollars, and some even hundreds of thousands. Now imagine this, an 1827 capped bust half dollar, circulated, scratched, with a clipped planchet. Sold in 2022 for $97,000, not because it looked perfect, but because it was struck with a rare die pair used for just a few days before being replaced. And here's where things really get wild. In 1829, the Mint reduced the size of the capped bust half dollar slightly, causing a transitional overlap where a few coins were accidentally struck using older, incompatible dies. These coins are known as large date small letters hybrids, and even in the roughest shape, they're worth a fortune. One was discovered in an old collection out of Missouri. It had rim dings, heavy circulation, and almost no visible details on Liberty's face. But the reverse die was the key, a known one-year use error die. It sold at auction for an astonishing $213,000. And get this, there are also reports of overdate errors from this era, where the date was punched over a previous year. For example, in 1826/5, where the number 6 was struck over a 5, one such coin, nearly worn smooth, fetched $164,000. So that coin in your hand, if it has a visible overdate, a clipped edge, an unusual reverse, you might be looking at a six-figure anomaly. And remember, this is from a time when coins were literally handcrafted, meaning no two are exactly alike. Every tiny difference could mean a huge leap in value. This isn't just a coin. It's a piece of pre-industrial America, forged when the mint was still part science, part art, and all risk. And if this has your heart racing like ours, you're going to want to see what's next. Only 2 coins remain in this countdown, and they are absolute shockers. Send over the next photo, because we're closing in on presidential coin history that could change everything you thought you knew about pocket change. We have now in front of us a coin minted between 1845 and 1849 in circulated condition. And don't let the wear fool you, because this could be the most explosive time period in early U.S. coinage, and one that continues to deliver six-figure shocks. Let me paint the picture. President James K. Polk was in office. The United States had just annexed Texas. The Mexican-American War was raging, and the California gold rush was about to rewrite history. At the U.S. Mint, this sudden economic boom, combined with a desperate need for coinage, meant rushed production, die errors, and incredibly low survival rates. Now listen closely, because here's where things get jaw-dropping. One of the rarest finds from this era, an 1846 seated Liberty dime, circulated and dull but with an unusual feature. The number 6 in the date was punched over a 5, an 1846 5 overdate. This one tiny detail made the coin ultra-rare. Even in rough shape, that coin sold for $172,000. But the king of shock? An 1849 $1 gold Liberty head, found in a shoebox in Arizona with rim damage, dull luster, and surface marks. It turned out to be struck with a misaligned reverse die, making the eagle appear crooked, a known die state from a limited die pairing used for just days before being destroyed. That battered little gold coin fetched $314,000 at auction. And yes, it was circulated. There's more. In 1847, a small batch of coins was struck at the New Orleans Mint, and many were quickly pulled due to misaligned stars on the obverse. Most were melted down, but the few that slipped out now go for $90,000 to $150,000, depending on the level of wear. And the thing is, most people have no idea what they're looking at when they find these. They see an old, worn coin with faded lettering, but collectors see potential gold in every die crack, repunched date, or mint mark error. So if your coin reads 1845 to 1849 and has a tiny O below the eagle, you might want to sit down, because you could be holding a rare New Orleans Mint issue worth a small fortune. Even coins that grade as about good or fair, the lowest possible grades, have gone for 5 or 6 figures. Because condition isn't everything. Rarity is. And let's be honest, the idea of a beat-up coin from Polk's presidency being worth more than a brand new Tesla, that's the kind of twist we live for. And now, just one coin remains in our top 10 countdown. And finally, we close out our presidential coin countdown with a quiet-looking piece from 1849 to 1850. It's in bad condition, rough, worn, faded. You might even think it belongs in a junk drawer. But what you actually have is a possible ticket to a 6-figure payout. Let's talk about what makes this year so unbelievably special. The year is 1849. Zachary Taylor, a war hero with zero political experience, has just taken office as the 12th President of the United States. And what happens next? The California gold rush explodes. Tens of thousands of people flood west, and with it comes an urgent need for hard coinage. Fast. The U.S. Mint scrambles to keep up. Coins are being struck around the clock. And mistakes? They're not just common, they're legendary. In 1849 alone, the mint introduced the first ever $1 gold coin, a small, delicate piece that was incredibly difficult to strike properly. The result? Dozens of errors, many of which were so subtle they weren't discovered for over 100 years. One of the biggest finds? An 1849 $1 gold coin, so worn down it was nearly flat, but it had a misplaced date punch, overlapping with part of the bust. Authenticated by PCGS? And sold for $212,000. But the real monster? An 1850 double eagle, the $20 gold piece. Only a handful from that year survive today. Most were melted, lost during westward expansion, or destroyed in banking collapses. And in 2021, a beat-up 1850 O double eagle struck at the New Orleans Mint, graded fine details, damaged, still brought in an unreal $384,000. Collectors pay top dollar for these coins, not because they look perfect, but because of what they represent. A turning point in American history, where gold, politics, and expansion all collided. A tiny disc of metal that witnessed a literal gold-fueled migration of 500,000 people. And here's the part that will truly shake you. One 1850 $1 gold coin believed to be lost for decades was found in the seam of a Civil War-era Bible in 2019, badly worn and nearly unrecognizable. But once authenticated, sold at auction for $176,000. So yeah, that ugly little coin in bad condition from 1849 to 1850, it might just be a key to the most explosive chapter in American numismatic history, because while others walk past it, you now know the truth. And that's the final shock in this journey through presidential coin treasure. If you've enjoyed uncovering these hidden legends, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because trust me, this isn't the end, it's just the beginning. Some of the greatest coin discoveries in U.S. history are still sitting in drawers, jars, and pockets across the country. Will the next one be yours? Stay curious, stay sharp, and keep hunting. Because sometimes the dirtiest coins hold the deepest secrets.